Hello and welcome to the Overton Audios podcast. My name's Connor Chadwick.
Oh, and I'm Daniel Patton. Sorry, I was
Did
reading
you,
the,
you
the,
did you did you
the
forget did you forget who you were there for a second, sir?
I had a brief identity crisis that
Ooh.
lasted and went within 5 seconds, yes.
So, everyone's probably noticed that we've already had a podcast come out about 6 days ago.
Indeed,
Podcast number
indeed.
59, super special, and this is of course the Big 60. But there's something else special about it, sweet Daniel. You'll notice.
Indeed, sir.
I'm
There's
sure. Yes, I'm sure you'll notice, and as well as other people, that this isn't really titled after any project. It is called Sweeter Returns.
Oh, which is a play on Sweet Greetings,
Yeah, that's our
which
first
was
ever podcast.
our first ever podcast, which was a damning 5 years ago, my friend.
5 years ago today, as of recording, we did our first recording, 4th of
Yeah.
April 2020. I listened to the podcast earlier today to kind of have a lot of reflection on it. I know you've actually been doing some Fractured Timeline filming today.
I was actually, yeah, we're filming more scenes with Anya and Chelsea. We wrapped up Chelsea today, actually.
Yes, indeed.
This was the penultimate filming block, sir. So
Wow.
we are planning the final
Oh,
production block at the moment.
oh my
And
word.
it's getting real. It's getting very real, very, very, very real.
Oh yes, indeed. But that's the thing. I listened back to it, and it ends. And I know we go on. I swear to God that nearly every podcast we've ever done, we've always mentioned COVID.
Yes, but I think that it's sort of unavoidable given how.
That first podcast ends with you telling people to wash your hands and keep your distance and everything like that. And I completely, because throughout that first podcast I listened to, we actually don't mention it until the end, and we only made this podcast because of
Because
COVID.
and the lockdowns, yeah, we were. Because I think because me and you were chatting so much because we just started working together, not just
Mm.
in audios, but like not only we actually started working at the same place of work at that point, but we were just
We didn't
constantly on
start working
calls.
together until July that year, so
Yeah,
we
but
weren't
then
working together yet.
yeah, but like I had so much downtime and I wanted to do something with you more productive rather than we have Zoom calls, but then we just ramble so much. Like, and I think me and
Yeah,
you had like I think it was me who had the joke like we should make this a podcast.
I think I'd also started listening to the Big Finish podcast around that time, and I thought we should do something like that. Um,
Yeah.
and here we are 5 years later, and 60 episodes. I don't know. It just felt too good to be true that we got to 60 at the same sort of time, and I thought we got to do
Yeah,
something. We shouldn't. I
that's
realized we didn't mention it in the last podcast at all, and I think things have just been so busy in our lives. Like, you gotta remember where we were in life back then. Was just about to turn 25, and here I am 3 days from turning 30 now. Um,
Jesus.
and with you, I think you just finished uni.
I was finishing uni at that point. I was
Ah,
wrapping up on my final assignments at this point,
yes, and
and
you were living with your parents.
I was living with my folks at the time, and I was running like my whole thing because I was like doing like my uni work and doing everything else on like my MacBook that was begging for death. Just
Yeah,
and
and
now
the candidate was only 6 months old.
yeah, I only came out like December of the previous year, so like before anything, any whispers of COVID were really becoming prominent.
Yeah, and I think you were starting to work on Dimension of the Daleks at that point, but you did a rewrite over COVID because you had the time.
Yeah,
Um,
I had time, so I did a full
hmm,
rewrite, and it turned out to be a lot better.
Meanwhile, we look at where we are in life now, and I would say that we're in. I'd say me. I mean, I now. We were both living with our immediate family.
Mm.
Um, but since then, I've moved out. I've been in this flat since October 2020. You have moved out, and you've moved to a couple of places since. Hence why I can
Yeah,
always you can always point out because you're not in the podcast. Well, then again,
yeah,
you also had about a year break in the middle of it, didn't you? You was
I
it was
I did.
it was summer 2022 to summer 2023.
Yeah, because there's just so much happened in 2022. A lot of stuff I don't really want to go into, but basically, I just got like me and I just got married,
Yeah.
and we just got our first place, and I just wanted to see what married life was like. But then, like a lot of other stuff happened. Like what happened.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah, I know that. I
yeah,
just, I know it's obviously
then like
private.
yeah, and then my mental health really deteriorated towards
Mm,
2023, and then I think it wasn't until towards the end of 2023, things got better. That was like
yeah.
I think I could return to the
Because you
podcast
did come back for September's podcast, September 2023's podcast.
because
Um,
it was because of Dark Universe.
no, Dark Universe started coming out in 2022 and then finished at the beginning of 2023. You came back and literally it was just because you'd had your year break.
Yeah,
You'd had your year break. You were feeling better enough to come back to the podcast, and that's essentially what happened.
indeed.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it's weird to reflect on how much has changed. Obviously, when we on the first ever podcast, I was going, everyone, remember at the end of the podcast, I was at the end of that first ever podcast, I went, everyone, Transcendence is coming out weekly. Watch it, and I went, oh my God, because
Transcendence is 5 years old as well. I
what?
just
No,
realized.
it's even worse than that. The premieres of it, or at least when it came out, is only 5 years old. But remember, I made that a year before in April 2019.
Oh, yeah, and you didn't even know because like that story is set in 2020 and you didn't
It's
even
set
know.
in 2020, where the Irish Doctor and Nathan Chase have gone to see Ryan Johnson's new Star Wars trilogy that got announced, and obviously that ended up getting
No, I think
cancelled.
I remember that story. We had in the story it was the Doctor and Nathan, the Irish Doctor and Nathan, going to see what turned out to be the Rise of Skywalker, the
Yeah,
end of
so
the current
I
trilogy.
think they were on like a Star Wars marathon to see all the premieres, weren't they?
Yeah, and then they were saying, "Oh, we go see that new trilogy, like the one that's based on the previous film," and then we just never go see it. So it's like, I think that reflects life a wee bit there.
Yeah, yeah, actually, that's quite good, actually. But yeah, that's set in. I mean, we're very lucky because that story is set in February 2020, so we avoided that, and that was what was interesting too. Is just God, when you look back on all the episodes, the amount of because I now know how many hours of podcast we've recorded.
I am terrified for you to reveal that number. I'll be completely honest with you.
Do you want me to tell
I
you?
know, like for a large majority of it, I'm not present because I
It
took time
sounds
off.
like when I tell you how many hours in comparison to how many days,
Yeah.
you might find it interesting.
Okay. How many hours?
104,
104.
which is 5 days.
So you're telling me it take you 5 consecutive days, like 5 days to consecutively watch the entirety of this podcast,
Yeah. But
or
do you know
listen
what's
to
cool
it.
about that? 5 years to make 5 days. So every day is a year, really. Which makes sense to an extent when we've got 12 episodes a year, roughly. And we're
It's about an
making
hour.
about, and sometimes they're not even just an hour, they're sometimes 2 hours. Like
Yeah.
you got to think that the big 60th anniversary podcast we did was 4 hours. And that was in 2023. And there were some where I've done some podcasts, where they're only 55 minutes. I think that's the shortest we've ever had. So it very much varies the length depending on the subject, but it averages out as 1 year of podcasts will make up 24 hours,
Yeah.
which, I mean, so we've made 5 days worth of consecutive content. If you had it playing continually, you would get through the podcast. That is a lot. If you made someone like stay awake and watch
God
it,
help them.
yeah, it's a big one. Um, God, yeah, but I just think about all the people we've spoken to on it, not just about our own projects, but we've also had people on about their own projects and them themselves. I think thinking back on it, we've had Miles Taylor from Tailored Vision,
We
MB in
had
Homeland.
we had the folks from DDK come in as well, talk
Yes,
about their finale.
DDK. There was
I'm
Fortuna
probably for
Vega, Fortuna Vega Studios.
Yeah, they came in and they talked about their project.
Yep, Jack
Um,
Reeves.
Jack Reeves came on, but like that was back when he was hosting the community show.
Yes, indeed.
I'm
Um,
probably forgetting someone. But like I think that's been my favorite part of this podcast was to go out and chat to these people. Like I never would usually chat with one to one about their own projects. It's been a lot of fun to do
I do
that.
want to do more of it. I do think it's because we're now obviously we've been streamlining the schedules a bit. Obviously, last podcast and the next podcast we're actually going to do have reflections in it. And what I mean by reflections is we look back to the previous segments what we talked about it, like last month's or the one that came out a week ago, Supers
Yeah.
special. That had elements of the series of volumes one and two's Supers discussions from 2 to 3 years ago, and it's there as a reminder for people, but we don't always have to do that. I don't want it to be something where we're regurgitating content, but it's something
Yeah.
where we can actually find segments where we can actually talk to people about their stuff. I mean, one of my one of my real proudest podcasts was, I believe, podcast number 44, and that was the 60th anniversary special. 4 hours, and we talked to a myriad of different fan creators. I think we talked
It
to the Dwem lot, the What Fourth Wall lot.
it
We
was
talked, yeah, sorry, and then we did Torture 2000, and we talked about, we
Prism
obviously talked
60
about
as well.
ourselves. Yeah, he did a 60th for Overton Audios, Ruben
Yeah,
Ropo.
I remember, but also like the 60th we did for Prism, like the Conqueror of Time.
Yes, yes, we did that
It
as well. Yeah. God, there was so much.
was
Like, it was the most collaborative podcast.
it was a very collaborative month in general because
Mm,
like basically everyone was working together at that point. It was like
100%.
and yeah, like that was
100%.
over that just there's so much going on. Like I'm surprised it was just 4 hours that
Oh
podcast.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. But regarding the 5 years, we did a special Q&A for the first ever episode, which was people's opportunity to ask us questions.
Indeed.
So I thought, because I quite like, what was it, Vanity Fair, who do those interviews with Billie Eilish every year to see how Billie Eilish changes every year with their answers and how they feel.
Hmm.
I thought if we answer the same questions again,
Yeah.
then
It will sort of like
we can
show
reflect
how
on it.
much we
Because
changed over the last 5 years.
yeah, I mean, I vaguely remember because I watched it earlier today, but I haven't got the greatest memory. I've got too much to think about these days. But I thought, if we go through it and we go through the questions together, it's 16 questions. We got through it last time in 40 minutes. We can see how much we've got used to podcasting now by how much we decide to yap about it.
Yeah.
But,
Like, but we'll see how it goes because I
yeah, I
like
think it'll be fun.
I think it's just like we just constantly like we go on tangents a lot.
Oh, we do, we do. I mean, I didn't think that this beginning part was even meant to be this long in the first place.
It really
But
wasn't. It's just
no,
us.
no, indeed it is. Indeed it is. So, shall I begin with the first question?
Yes, please, sir.
The first question is by DW Intro Edit, who back in the day used to make a lot of intros of our stuff and other fan creators.
I think I remember
Um,
them.
yes, you actually knew them more than I did back then. And their first question was, what do you and Daniel expect to see in series 13 of Doctor Who? So for the sake of this, I think we should talk about series 15.
Yeah,
But
the
but isn't
situation
isn't
that
it isn't
was.
it weird though that that was a question 5 years ago and there's only been two series since?
It is a bit mental,
Yeah.
but
So
like at the same time, the two series we've had have been consecutive from
I
last
will
2 years.
say this though, for the sake of doing any comparison later, I did actually quite enjoy series 13
I
until
really,
the final episode ruined it for me. I know I've spoken about that before, but I won't go too
yeah,
much into it.
I really,
The first five were amazing setup for me.
I really loved Series 13. I loved
Mm,
how they serialized it. I do think we should have another serialization, like another like serial drama of Doctor Who. I don't know. It kept me gripped. It kept me engaged week to week. Like, oh, what's going to happen next?
yeah.
Not in the same, not in the same way. So, like, I wonder what's going to happen next week. Like, I wonder how they're going to do what they're going to do with
Oh
them.
yeah,
Because
that cliffhanger at the end of War of the Sontarans, it was the first cliffhanger in years that actually had me on the edge of my seat going for the whole week.
yeah, War of Sun is also like just
It
generally
was
one of my
oh,
favorites.
it brought back the
Doctor
Sontarans
stories.
to the way that they should have been in my eyes. Because I feel like
Exactly.
whilst I have grown to like Strax over the years, I do think what ended up happening. was that Strax got representative of the Sontarans, and sadly, in the name of the Doctor, they introduced the Sontaran Empire as being exactly like Strax.
Yeah.
And that
But like,
isn't the point. That literally is not the point of Strax. Strax actually, in A Good Man Goes to War, is like any Sontaran, but being punished. It's only when he gets brought back to life that part of his mind is still lost and he's damaged from it. If you look at it really, and it's quite a sad thing, Strax is brain damaged.
oh God, yeah. But like, I think we're doing what we were saying we're not going to do. We're deviating,
Oh
sir.
no! Okay, yes. So anyway, series
But
15
so
of Doctor Who. What do you expect to see?
I won't keep it short and brief, but I'm very excited because I know the production team have been working on this series really like they've been. I really do think the production
Mm,
tremendously hard in this series. They got to know they got to know their strengths and weaknesses from series one. I think they went into series two, and then like you look at the second series, you look at the visuals, you look at everything just feels more confident. Everything looks so much nicer. Like the cinematography looks amazing. I think like a lot of confidence was made from that first series, and this series is going to be uh I don't know like the fruits of that labor.
yes, yes. One thing that I've noticed that people aren't remembering about this is that they filmed series 14 and 15 back to back.
Yeah.
So I've seen so many people going, they haven't learned from the previous series. I'm like, well, of course they didn't. They filmed it back to back.
Yeah,
Like,
but there's so much stuff I think they learned about
I think they learned it
themselves.
in terms of maybe post production. They had to do some reshoots recently, so I think there's that. But I have a few theories,
What's your theory, sir?
and I'm gonna, if I'm right, which as of when this podcast comes out, it'll be 4 days until the first episode. I don't think they're doing a double premiere again.
They're not doing
Um,
it all, just one episode.
No, okay, so we've still got 8 weeks after that. So it might not be this, it might not be the next podcast or the one after, but I want to come back to it when I've got a theory as to who the villains of the finale are and to who Mrs. Flood is.
I am very
And
intrigued.
considering that we've not got anything beyond series two confirmed, I think we're going
Uh,
to find out those. I think we're going to find out who Mrs. Flood is this series because it was planned as being a two-season arc.
yeah, exactly.
Would you
Right.
like to
Well,
hear my Would you like
I
to hear
would
my
love to.
theory?
I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear a theory and see if how I feel about it. To be honest,
Right. Firstly, I think the villains of the finale are going to be the Daleks.
it'd be interesting. It'd be very interesting.
Because I will ask this: where have they been?
Where have they been?
And it looks like that there is an element of reality play at hand.
Hmm.
I think it would be really interesting if they've shifted into a different reality somehow or something like that. I feel like that, and it's within the Daleks' means to mess with things like this, especially after the Time War.
Especially that. Yeah, I do think.
Especially with the title of it being called the Reality War. It's not the Time War, it's the Reality War. It feels too
I, I
similar.
I do feel like this is the one thing that RTD has done best is that he loves to build up the return of the Daleks. Like that's his bread and butter. He loves to write in how he's going to bring the Daleks back, and he always loves
Mm,
keeping it a surprise in some fashion.
mm,
Like he brought the
indeed.
Daleks in Dalek. I was like, okay, you had your Dalek story. Now we can. What's going to be the big thing in the end? Oh, more Daleks.
I think it was right. I do think the Daleks are going to be the villains of the finale, and I think it's right that they've been given a break for a bit because I think it has kept the show a bit fresh, but having new villains again has made people. I think sometimes you need a recurring villain or a returning villain at least once a series. Don't have to be just the finale. I don't think you should lean on that always. I think it's about trying to strike a balance, but I think something's being lined up for a massive return, and I think that's the Daleks.
I agree. I
But
want
my theory on who Mrs. Flood is, and a lot of people have said this already online, and people have been, what's the term now the young people use, clowning on them. Um,
to.
I genuinely think, based on all the clues we've been given, that Mrs. Flood is the Rani.
Now you see, I understand where you're coming from. I've seen the rumors myself. I've seen people spread this for the rumor. I generally don't think
She's the only one who's sort of being able to tell a story, and I think it's an experiment.
I I think we're going to clash on this one, my friend.
I
And
think,
here's
I
the thing, I will be,
personally think the reason it's a reality war is because they're not in their reality.
you know what?
I think the Rani has put them, or Mrs. Flood or the Rani has put them in, put the Doctor into this narrative, and it's like a
I'm
pocket dimension or something. I genuinely think that with all reality play and everything like that, and with Mrs. Flood being able to look into the camera and talk to us and go, "Oh yes," and I wonder what will come up next. I think it's a big experiment.
I feel I get what you mean. I don't think it's the Ronnie.
No,
I purely think purely because you may this may be blasphemous for me to say. I do believe that the Ronnie might be too niche of a villain for a major return.
that's fair enough. In all fairness, it has been years. It's been nearly
It
40
has been
years.
years. We haven't seen the Ronnie has not been
But I
in
have
our
seen people
TVs.
like because obviously people saw from the series one or series 5 or series 14 poster art that the vortex or like all the light streams, it's all the light streams from one of the posters with the 15th Doctor and Ruby mirrored the time corridor seen in the original Pyramids of Mars that was in the sarcophagus.
Yeah.
And now they're looking at the latest one, and it's like a kind of pinkish red, which is what the Rani wore in the 80s. And I was saying, yeah, maybe. But I thought about it, and I've always thought that Mrs. Flood was the only person who was able, because she's the only one who can look into the camera, have you noticed?
Yeah,
She's the only one, she can see us watching too. And I'm not trying
yeah.
to say that, I know that's, people can sometimes look into that as a bit of like a Deadpool thing, but I genuinely think that she's up, like, I genuinely think that whatever Mrs. Flood is doing, um, it's an experiment, and I can only think the only person who is the more powerful enough to do something like that is the Rani. But
Well, I'm excited to see
I'm
what
sure
comes
we will
next.
discuss this. I'm sure we will discuss this. If I'm
And
right
you're
about both, I will never let it live. Never let anyone live it down.
especially me if I say it's not the Ronnie.
Oh yeah, I've just got a theory about. I don't know. I don't know the stories.
We,
I don't know. I've just got this little theory, and I'm
at the
probably
end of the
wrong.
series, we should replay this clip, and then one of us will have to admit defeat.
Yes, indeed. I need to try and find out what the time code will be, but I will get there. Right. So I suppose we should move on to the next, seeing as we've spent so long on question one out of
Yes,
16. Sorry.
it's okay.
Right.
The next question is also from the W intro edits. This is a flashback, sir.
Yes, indeed it is. Go
It
on.
is. It is from quite a uh, quite
Long time ago.
from a long time ago.
Hmm.
Um, that's not really relevant
Just
anymore.
read
But
it.
okay. When you and Daniel were in the DW 2012's Eternal Darkness, what was your favorite scene?
I was in a white void the whole time, and my answer from back 5 years ago stands. I was in a white void, although I didn't really give poor sweet Daniel here who did the visual effects
I'll never forget this.
much option in that. I think I'd filmed Waterside with PMG that night, and we filmed it like 2 a.m. It was a tough one, but I'm sorry for that, sweet Daniel. But
It's okay. It's okay.
yes, indeed. What
I
about you?
I I only see it in nightmares anymore, so it's all good.
Oh,
But for me, I think my favorite scene is the regeneration era scene where I take off the ring, and I think that's my same answer from the last
that is
episode.
exactly what you said 5 years
Yeah,
ago.
it's just because I liked the contribution of my Doctor story in this larger story.
Yeah,
But so
even if it's not necessarily canon anymore.
even though it's not canon anymore, so but I still liked it because it did interact very well with what I was doing with Irish at the time.
Indeed,
All right,
indeed.
shall we move on to question number three, sir?
Indeed, also from DW Intro Edits. Are audio dramas easy to do? I would like to try it one day. Now, my answer is different to 5 years ago because I am now older and have different things going on in my life. So I heard my answer back then and thought, oh, I wouldn't answer it that way now. And that answer back then was yes. Um, I would say sort of now. I wouldn't say it's 100% easy, but I wouldn't say it's difficult or too hard. The problem is time for me now. It
Yeah,
like if I don't like back then. I didn't my job, which I've risen the ranks in, has more responsibilities now than I did then. We were also during COVID at that point, so I had time then. Now, I've got so many things going on in my life now that I really find it difficult to catch up with anything. Even though I cut certain projects and finish them and move on and stuff, I described 5 years ago that it was just going from, oh, I'll just work on this project, then I move on to the next one. Now I have to work on about five projects at once because the timekeeping of it is so much more difficult. The crunching of it is so much more difficult.
Yeah.
But we're able to do it. We're able to keep it afloat, and I'm much more collaborative than I used to be. There was a lot more lot more writers because I've burnt out writing about what summer in 2023. I am still writing, but I really struggle with writer's block every time I write now because I've written probably about nearly 250 audio dramas now. It's a
Yeah,
tough
it's
one.
understandable.
It really
Plus,
is tough.
plus your standards have also
Oh
increased.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. I was only on like I think Overton Audios was only on 200 subscribers when we started this podcast. We're
Yeah.
now on we're now on 1030 or something like that. Which of course I've never actually properly mentioned that we got the 1K on any of the podcasts, which of course I'm insanely grateful for. We also built up a Patreon as well so that people could give some money towards it. I've never asked for more than £1 or £2 a month, and it goes towards funding like the programs I have and everything like that. And I've gone, we've gone up and down on it before, but I'm always so grateful to anyone who's still signed up after all this time.
Yeah.
Um, it, it's one of those things where it's just it's contextual. We could do it. We could do another recording this time next year, and I could just be like, oh, no, actually, I find it really okay now. Like
Yeah.
it could just happen. But at the moment, it is a bit of a difficult balance. But I'm getting there. I am keeping up, and I'm also way more collaborative than I used to be. We've met so many more people. Because back in the day, do you remember, Dan? It was just really me, you,
Most
and Ollie, maybe.
potentially, yeah. Like,
I know that Ollie was involved in stuff, but he was involved in project specific stuff. But you shared universe stuff was always it's always just been me and you.
yeah, in terms of like that, the running of that side of things has been me and you, which
Yeah.
is weird. And then like all the audio covers and everything. Like back then, I think I was continuously doing all the audio covers back then.
Oh yes, yes indeed.
And now there's a lot more artists involved now. We got more artists, we got more
Mm.
editors, we got more writers.
Yeah.
It's become a whole operation.
Indeed it has, indeed it has. And that's actually a part of it too, is management, is managing that. And the thing is realizing that it's not all in your hands and sometimes things will fall through the or slip through the cracks and that's just a fact of life, sadly. And then sometimes you have to pick it up and finish it yourself. That's something we've had to do with a recent volume. We've tried to get a lot of new people involved that we've never worked with before, and every single person let us down.
Yeah,
It's a rough one. It honestly is. But
indeed.
nonetheless, my answer is it's easy to begin with. As you develop, your standards change, and I went from having like usually about 15 to 20 page scripts to now having closer to 60. So it's all about the context of in which you develop. When you start, it is easy though. I find it
I
because
think the
you're
best advice is just like sets like you think audio is like I can do whatever I want. I can have a
oh
I can
100%.
set in an infinite multiverse with like the biggest like Daleks, Simon. I can have a
I will
full
say
on time war.
I will say it's actually more daunting now that we're Prism rather than a part of DW 2012 because when we were a part of DW 2012 there was a lot of us involved.
Yeah,
Now that it's just Prism, it's all on us, so we're managing this whole expansive thing. I think that's what also eats up the time.
yeah.
It,
But at
yeah.
the same time, it's like I do like the fact that like, we can. I feel like that like me and you operate such a tight knit like especially there's a lot of you as well like James like Sutton has been very tight about like the Torchwood continuity. So
Yes,
there's been people
indeed.
like sort of like really helping us along with that as well.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah.
But I was gonna say as well, I think like the best thing to do is like d don't set like ambitious stories for your first audio drama.
No, 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 no. Start small. Start
Start
small.
small, few
Or if
casts,
anything, just write a short script.
hmm or even just like a short trip where it says like an
Yeah,
audiobook.
and I suppose number one thing is also recognize that when you send your lines off to people, number one, you must give them a deadline or else you'll keep chasing them forever.
Exactly.
And if they miss that deadline, you give them 2 more days, and if they don't do it, you have to move on. I know that sounds a bit strict, but I've only learnt that really in the last year or so, and that's how I've been able to keep up.
Exactly, sir.
Yeah.
Shall we move on, my friend?
Yes, of course.
Because I'm very excited about this next one. It's from Type 40 Cosplay, who's
Yes,
in.
when you read that out, you said, "Hello, mate," and then carried on, and I was like, "Wow, they didn't know each other. They didn't really know each other properly back then."
I had only messaged Aiden like a few months ago about playing Jordan.
See, that's what I mean. But you hadn't like the friendship that has built up since then. Obviously, you hadn't filmed Dimension of Daleks. The friendship that has built up between both of us and
Yeah.
Aiden.
And Aiden has become
Yeah,
like generally one of my closest friends.
yeah, yeah,
He has been like he's one of like the nicest people I know now.
yeah.
But what he's saying here is, um, would you say there's a lot of your Doctor storylines that we haven't seen yet? Like that's interesting because 5 years ago, I think you were just
5 years
finishing
ago,
series three. You just finished series
yeah,
three,
yeah.
and I had only released the candidates, and I think only volume one of Uncharted Pass was released.
Yes, and we both said there was a lot more to see. And now here we are, and I'm working on the last 3 volumes of
And
Cravat.
I'm working on my finale, and like we are, would you
We're at
still
the other
say
end.
what?
We're at the other end. That's
Yeah,
what's weird about that.
I still say there is a lot that there's still to be seen, but not obviously not as much. We have showed
There's a lot to see and a lot to be answered.
exactly.
Like whereas with me, I've still got those 3 volumes left. But other than that, I know what's happening in those volumes. There is a lot to see in them, but it's finite now.
Yeah,
And I suppose that's it for the same answer for both of us, really. We haven't
exactly.
we like your finale has more questions in it than mine does, but it's now just about taking a metaphorical walk with these characters as we go off to say goodbye to them.
I agree.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So the next question is by Iris Prindle, who says, who asks, "What is your favorite fan film slash fan audio drama episode?" So I think that means either or, but I remember in the original we said two.
Yeah.
Um, and I have been sat and thinking about it because I realized that my answer was Fire and Ice originally.
Oh, it's just like yeah, this is like our favorite fan like
Our
we've made.
favorite fan from a fan audio drama episode that we've seen from other people.
Oh, if I
Um,
went like from ourselves, like I think
no, no. Oh my God, that is the exact same thing you said last time.
really,
Oh my God,
we're
I'm
treading
having
tracks
deja
here.
vu. That's exactly what you said last
But
time.
yeah,
Oh, we have
but
not
I have to
changed at all, have we?
no, not at all. But I fundamentally agree with your answer that Fire and Ice is
Yeah,
my favorite fan film.
but that was my answer in 2020.
What was my answer in 2020? I can't remember.
You talked about tailored vision.
Television.
You
Yeah,
talked about
Television,
the
I still think is one of the best like audio drama makers like beside it. Like from besides ourselves, but I'm being
yeah, because
biased.
back then we gave both. We gave our favorite fan film and fan audio drama. I
Yeah.
said Fire and Ice and Chris Walker Thompson's Second Doctor audios.
Those are good. I think
Yeah.
my answer for fan film is Fire and Ice as well.
See, but that's not my answer now.
Oh, really? What was your answer back then?
My answer back then was Fire and Ice, but my answer now is actually Josh Snare's Might of the Daleks.
Oh, that is really good. Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I had a long think about it. I've had time to think about these questions, but no, there's been tons of amazing fan film work that have come out. Like, I think fan films they took a bit of a short break. I think.
So that's because of you know.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously this COVID that happened and everything, but I do notice that there's been a bit more of a resurgence in fan films. I have also been enjoying Nick Scoville's adventures as well.
Yeah, because he
But
recently re-uploaded his Power of the Daleks rematch.
yes, indeed,
That's
indeed.
phenomenal. That
Yeah,
is
oh yeah, 100%.
that's
Yeah,
the top tier fan film.
indeed, indeed.
But
And
I think Byron Ice is my favorite because it really was the one that inspired me to go out and make fan films to
yeah,
such a high quality, to a high standard.
yeah, 100%. I can't. I'm trying to think about favorite fan audio drama. Um, I thought of someone, but the problem is they're not online really anymore. Um, I don't know if you know Andrew Creek
I'm
of
familiar, yeah.
On Fleek Productions, and he was making an audio drama per classic Doctor. So he did one with the first Doctor called The House of Longbarrow. He did one with Chris Walker Thompson's The Second Doctor. He did one with the third Doctor called Red Moon that starred John playing one of the Revenge of the Cybermen.
Damn.
Cybermen going resistance overcome and all that sort of stuff. And I remember those because they really were really great products of their time. Sadly, the trailer for the fourth Doctor audio went out, but it never went on YouTube. Um, and they are still on Bandcamp somewhere. But I later found out that Andrew went and worked on the show as literally a COVID manager for Flux,
Damn, really?
and he's gone on to have a very good career in the industry. A door must have just been opened to him whilst he was making these, and it was very lucky for him. But he's gone off and done that now. But his audios were great. He got someone to play the fourth Doctor, and I think he went all the way up to the sixth Doctor. I want to say, did one with someone playing Missy. It was all this sort of stuff, but it was really good, and I really enjoyed those audios for their time.
Yeah. Damn.
Mm.
Shall we move on, my friend?
Oh yes, of course.
So for episode six, for question six.
Oh
Sorry, I am very tired.
yeah, that's fair enough.
But we have DW intro edits again, and
Oh,
they've asked if you weren't cosplaying slash playing a doctor, what would you be doing in your life right now? And I honestly have no idea. I have no idea.
I'd probably still be doing what I do for my job.
I don't know where I'd be purely because a lot of what I do, I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for this.
That's what you
I
said last. That's what you said last time as well.
I wouldn't. The thing is, Doctor Who has such an influence on my life,
That's what you said last
which
time as well.
I wouldn't have met all my closest friends. I wouldn't have met the woman who would eventually be my wife.
I have got to do a side by side comparison of what you said back then compared to what you just said now because they are identical.
I, the thing is,
Yeah, yeah.
there's no change to these questions because it is
No,
the answer is still the same. It's just the
no, that's true.
context is a lot grander.
Yes, this is true.
And now that I'm married and I own a house, is just that I don't think I would be where I am right now, honestly.
No.
And I think I've grown in confidence because of it as well.
Oh, 100%, yeah. With me, my answer is a little bit more boring. Um, I would probably like I started in my job I have now. Started this job before Overton Audios. If I didn't do Overton Audios, I would still be in my job now. I'd probably actually be more knowledgeable in my job as well. But there's too much brain space being used up on Overton Audios. So yeah, but also if I hadn't carried on, if I hadn't started Overton Audios, I wouldn't have met my my girlfriend.
That's true.
I would not have met her. I would not have met half the people that we know now, or if not any. I like you and I met before Overton Audios. I reckon we'd still be talking, but I reckon we'd actually have lost contact if I'm being completely honest, because our shared interest of making things is what's helped us.
Grow such a friendship.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, not that our entire friendship is dependent on that. I think we'd still be friends now, but we just wouldn't, we'd only message when Who was on as well, I think.
That's true. That's true. Plus, we were also working on things like we worked on like Waterside and Time Traveler as well.
Yeah,
So like that was something like, and I think that shared interest about making fan content, I think that really kept us going.
yeah,
Indeed, sir.
yeah. So I think I'd still be in the job I am, but and I feel like you actually might have ended up, I think you would have still ended up working with me, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it was July 2020. If we were still kind of in contact,
That's
we should,
true.
because,
That's also true.
Waterside had only come out beginning of 2020. There would still be something connecting us throughout that.
Ah, yeah, that's true to be fair. But
Um, but yes,
yeah.
anyway, the next question is also from DW Intro Edits. They had a lot of questions back then for us. The question is, what's your favorite part about making audio dramas? Now, what was interesting about this question 5 years ago was you hadn't edited any, but you have now.
I've edited a short trip, which I found really
It's still
fun.
audio as
It's still
well.
audio. The thing is,
Yeah.
I made that short trip very audio drama based, and it was like just me, Anya, and me playing multiple different versions of my incarnation. But like that was my first insight into making a audio drama, and it was a lot
Mm.
of fun. I found a lot of fun, but I think I still have a lot to learn.
Oh yeah. I think you've done very well with what you've made though.
Oh, thank you.
My favorite part of making audio dramas, um, I said, I imagine that back then I said editing because of how long the audio dramas are now. I do enjoy editing, but it is still a bit of a chore. I do really adore listening back to it when it's done though, and then hearing it, being able to see the cover art, and yeah, I love seeing it when it all comes together and realizing the process was worth it. I do want to find my love for editing it again because I, I don't know. There are pros and cons to everything. I do enjoy when I get into writing. I enjoy writing. When I get, well, I suppose you can't really get into recording. You just kind of do it. But like when it comes to the editing, it's the same thing. But I would say I mostly enjoy the editing and like the listening back on checking of everything process now. So, but with you, sir, what was your favorite part of making? What was it called? What was your one called?
Well, Voyage of the Damned. No, it wasn't Voyage of the Damned. It was
I was about to
Void of the Damned. It
I was about to say
wasn't
Voyage of the.
Voyage.
That's just why I asked you to say it because my brain went Voyage of the Damned as well. But
Yeah,
it was Voyage of the
like
Damned.
it was called Void of the Damned, and
Yeah.
thing is, the most difficult part, like I don't know, I should be saying, the most difficult part was definitely the voice recording because I had to play three different versions with different accents. I
Yeah.
had to record that on three different days because my mind kept resetting back to Scottish and then English and back to Irish, so it was like
Mm.
that there. But I really enjoyed the editing. I really enjoyed putting the sound effects together. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed
because it all goes from being in your head and then you're recording it in silence. And then when you finally put everything together and you have all the layers on it, you can hear it and you're like, I'm somewhere else now.
yeah, exactly.
Really nice.
Exactly, my friend. I'm so sorry for yawning. I have just come from a long day
Am I
flying.
boring you?
No, sir, I'm just so tired.
Yes, indeed. We're only reaching the halfway point of these questions. All
Oh.
right, come on, let's speed run it. Come on, we can do it.
Let's do this. Let's do this. All right. From DW Intro Edits again. How you doing? When did you and Connor start cosplaying, making fan films, and when did you two meet? I think we could just
Um,
say
I start
you
making.
started a lot earlier than I did.
I started on the 9th of May 2007.
The fact you have a date.
But yeah, I remember those things. But the 9th of May 2007 is when I made my first YouTube channel and my first fan film went out when I was 12. And I'm 30 in 4 days. I've been doing this a while.
I
Um,
I I started in around 2011.
hmm
I think I can name a date because I just watched Curse of the Black Spot and I wanted to make a fan film.
Would that have
And
been?
just
That would have been like late April 2011.
yep. And I just went out, just filmed something. I filmed literally, I think it's because of what the storyline series 6 was. I watched my doctor see himself die in the future.
Oh dear. I still remember that. Do you remember that little Short film you made called Clone.
Oh my God. Please don't. Don't do this. I'm too tired to talk about clone. You have me in a very vulnerable moment, sir. So I really, really tell you, tread with caution when you talk about clone right now.
Yeah, I know, I know.
You know
When
what you're doing.
I do,
You know
I
what you're
do
doing.
know, I do know what I'm doing.
Ticked and power.
I take it
I've
back,
never
take it back.
have been ticked.
Indeed, indeed. But in regards, right, moving on then, regarding to when we first met, right, so when we met physically, I believe it was the end of July 2016, because you stayed at mine for
It
2 weeks
was.
until the middle of August, I think.
Yeah, and then we were filming Time Traveler at the time. We were watching
Time
it was
Traveler
series three.
Retribution, we filmed that for, I can't believe that. Why did they take us 2 weeks to film that? I didn't,
I
we
think
didn't film it all the time, did we?
no, we did have breaks. We had days we just hung out.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
Am I
And
boring you?
I'm tired too, honestly. We've left it till very late. Um, so, but then when we first started talking was 2014, I want to say. But I did find an old video from one of my old YouTube channels called YouTube Fanatics,
Mm,
and I was making a video with Oliver Silcock,
mm.
and he mentions you.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, but I think it's because you've been commenting something, and I didn't, and
I do remember
but
like I used to comment.
we hadn't really crossed paths like actually like messaging.
All right. I think it's just like back then I was like watching your stuff and I was commenting and like about like the time traveler stuff you're making and all that sort
Oh
of stuff. I was really
God,
following your work at the time.
the old time traveler stuff back in the
The
day.
old time traveler stuff, my
So we've
friend.
probably known each other on and off since 2012, which is 13 years.
Good Lord.
But we didn't really meet until 2016, so that's 9 years since we met. So that's, we're getting on for a decade now, mate.
Jesus, sir.
No, yeah,
Oh, coming to a decade next year.
yeah,
Oh my God.
strange.
Yeah, we're moving on to because I'm getting I don't like talking about decades since we last met since we first started
Mm,
speaking.
yeah, I
So
know, right? Oh dear. So, next question, sir.
yeah, is it me or no? It's number nine. That's you.
Oh, it's me. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. So this question is from TARDIS Glitch, otherwise known as Joshua Griggs.
my old nemesis.
Yes, indeed. And his question was, what was your first episode of Doctor Who that you ever watched? And I remember this. I remember what your answer is, and I remember what my answer is because I lived
I
it.
I was on holiday in the south of Ireland.
You were.
And then it was during it was raining outside, and my mom was like, "Well, put on the TV, see what's on."
She
And then
was.
the series two finale of Doctor Who came on, and then I watched it, and then that's how it all started.
And you did mention as well. You did mention as well that you did catch a bit of Christopher Eccleston's regeneration, but you were really confused as to what it was and put off
Yeah,
by
yeah.
it.
Before that, I was like that. Because my mom tried to get me into Doctor Who. God, she regrets that now. But
Oh yeah.
but it was Christopher Eggleston's last episode, and he was talking like, "Oh, you're never gonna see me again." No, this daft old face, and I was just what was he talking about? This daft old face. He's young,
Yeah.
and then everyone was like looking sad but happy, and then he burst into light, and then a different man comes in. It was like, I think credit to my mom. This was the worst time to bring someone into Doctor Who when the Doctor is changing. Like to
Yeah.
that be their first impression of this character.
Oh yeah, 100%. Um,
And but like my first proper episode was the finale of series two because I was like
oh,
I could probably get to see the Doctor in action.
oh wow, cool. Um, Meanwhile, my first episode was Rose. Um, when I was watching all the trailers, my brain was telling me it was a weird CSI program
Oh,
because it was those ones where it pans away from them, when it's Rose going, I've got a choice, and she goes, I can stay at home, with my mum, my boyfriend, my job, or I can trade it all in for adventure. and life and death. And when it was panning out, because my 10-year-old, or well, at the time I was nine, my 9-year-old brain told me that adult crime dramas featured people in leather jackets and denim jackets for some reason. I thought it was just like a really kind of surreal police drama. I didn't think it was Doctor Who. Like as in what did we know the show to be? It wasn't
Yeah.
until my dad saw it and went, "Whoa!" It was the big trailer, when Eccleston's running down the tunnel and he's going, "Trip of a lifetime." It's that trailer. When he saw that in the TARDIS echoed, he went, "Oh, stop, stop, stop!" And then we all watched it, and I was like, "I don't know what that was." And he went, "You will." And like you say, I think,
Your dad knew. Your
yeah,
dad knew.
he does say that. He does say that he's told me before that the moment he introduced me to Doctor, he thought maybe he'll like it. Who knows? And he went, little did I know what I'd created. But yeah, so so my first episode was the first episode of the renewal. But I did catch glimpses in the lead up to the show coming back. When I was in year five, which I would have been 10 years old. Oh, no, sorry, nine, I would have been sorry 9 or 10, around those ages anyway. In the lead up to it coming back, I did watch Remembrance of the Daleks without any context.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't have much context for who the doctor was or anything. I remember walking by because it was a lunchtime club, and and I looked through the glass as I was walking by, and there was the close-up shot when they're in the junkyard fighting the Daleks, and there's that close-up shot of Sylvester McCoy going from turning like as if he's looking over his shoulder to look in the direction of the Daleks as it's firing. Do you remember that
Oh,
shot?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it's been used in a few promo shots before, but I saw that shot and then I saw everyone blowing up and dying, and I was like, "What on earth?" I thought it was a war film, and then when you got closer, you sort of realized, "Oh, well, it is old, but like it's not war." And then I just kind of thought it was like one of those children's programs that aired or something. I don't know what I thought it was really. And then when Doctor Who came back, is when I kind of connected the dots a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, yeah,
Very good, sir.
indeed, indeed.
So going on I keep saying episode, going to question 10 from Type 40 Cosplay. Hello,
Mm.
Aiden. What would you say is the defining trait of your doctors? And I think this has definitely changed because
Oh yeah,
we have evolved the characters in the last five
oh yeah.
years.
My answer back then was just cravats.
What's your answer now?
Not just cravat. No, no. But obviously he's called the Cravat Doctor, so he does have an enjoyment for cravats. But since then, I've really developed the Cravat Doctor, where obviously when we recorded that, the last thing the Cravat Doctor had done was lose Julia, but we and Transcendence was about to come out, and that was going to reveal the aftermath of it. I had noticed, maybe without meaning to, that I'd actually been playing the Cravat Doctor as a little bit more sterner, a little bit colder, and a little bit sadder since Julia had died. When I look back at some of the old stuff where, like with Cravat Doctor and Julia Breslin, when they travelled together, he was a lot more happier in his step. He had a bit more energy about him. And I thought when I was writing the Prism 60th, I thought maybe I could work on that a bit because yeah, maybe he's just sad and all that because he hasn't had closure. So I gave him the closure and I've given the opportunity for the doctor to heal and change a bit. And essentially, he's a doctor who spends most of his time in mourning now.
Yeah.
And that's how it's developed, really, is that it's the failures weighing down on the old man that is the cravat doctor, who's an old man at heart. And
Right.
plus, I always try to sort of like pay reference to the first Doctor where I can. I've always described the Cravat Doctor as a younger Hartnell, although a lot of people have told me I seem more like the Sixth Doctor because the Sixth
I
Doctor
can
was
see an
aiming.
argument with both.
Well, the Sixth Doctor kind of had a Hartnell-esque element about him. Even Colin Baker held the lapels like Hartnell would.
Exactly.
But a lot of people say I actually seem like like a Sixth Doctor kind of thing, like a
Yeah.
inspired thing. That wasn't really the intention,
I
but
think,
it's always interesting.
yeah, I think for me, I can't remember what I said. I think I might have said something like it's a very family-driven doctor. He always like there's always a family element with this doctor, especially with the Chase family. I I think this is a question I need to answer because I'm still writing my last scene. So
Yeah.
I haven't written my final scene as a doctor yet.
Oh wow.
I'm coming up to the filming of that scene soon because I said leave that as its own like slight production. Like that scene will be its own production block, its own entirely separate production,
Mm.
and that when I get to it, I'll know what definitively my doctor is, and
Yeah.
I'm still trying to answer that at the moment. So it's kind of a good time question to be honest. But like I think for me, it's like the doctor, especially this one, is trying to find purpose because
Yeah.
like he's went from tragedy to tragedy, and he's been told that he'll live alone, and now he's fighting back against that to have something, to be someone, to be something to someone, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
all has to do with purpose
Oh yes,
and
most definitely.
trying to find something. I
100%.
think that's what he's been doing for like the last, from the start of his life to the beginning. He's always been trying to find something,
Yeah, 100%.
something that was lost, perhaps.
Oh.
But
So, moving on
yeah,
to the next question, we have from Doctor Who cosplayer who asked, "What's your favorite fan Doctor costume?"
I could easily say mine.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't know who my favorites would be.
Mm.
I really, I don't. Yeah, what would you say? Do you have an answer?
Um, I
I
have an
really,
answer, but and it's kind
I
of what inspired me to make my Doctor's costume based on theirs, but I can't remember the specific name of it. I just know it had the word demon in it.
mm, I think for me, I really like what Dom did with the Purple Doctor.
You said that 5 years ago.
Did I?
Yeah.
Damn, Jesus Christ. But
Because we
yeah,
then discussed the process of how he went and had it tailor made over a lot of time.
yeah, like like just so much thought went into
Ah,
this thing, this
I have the
purple.
answer by the way. It's Matthew Chambers' Demon's Vision episode
Yes, I
came
remember
out,
that. I remember that fan film.
but that's kind of like the costume the costume I took major inspiration from. I have told him this before, and he gets very uncomfortable because he's like, "Well, hang on a minute, hang on, how old are you?" All this sort of stuff. He makes him feel old when I say it, but I loved that costume and the way he spoke. I almost kind of based it off of him a little bit without
Yeah.
realizing it. Obviously, the Cravat Doctor has developed a lot over time, but yeah, he was one of the major inspirations when I thought of it.
Yeah.
And you obviously mentioned Dom, but of course we talked, you know, before about how Dom's coat was going to be blue originally before he landed on purple.
I think he recycled that for Frontier.
Indeed, he did. He did. That was something
So
we
it has
talked
come
about.
full circle in some way. But
It very much has.
indeed, sir, indeed. So I think we're moving on to Tom Jacob B. And he says,
Hmm.
was there anyone who inspired your incarnations of your Doctor,
Well, I answered that just now. It's probably Matt Chambers.
Matt Chambers? I can't remember. I think like a lot of it is Capaldi. Like the way Capaldi carried
Oh,
himself as a
really? I
Doctor.
thought you would have said the Ninth Doctor.
I think Capaldi is really my inspiration for both,
Oh,
like
I'm hating how much of this is the same. That question I just asked was because you said Capaldi 5 years ago.
really.
I'm having too much fun recreating exactly what happened 5 years ago.
But
Sorry,
like
I'm now ending up just making it a copy. But no, I remember you said Capaldi, and I asked if it was the Ninth Doctor.
but like there's so much media I've been consuming the last couple of years, and
Yeah.
like I've really really have sort of absorbed so much. Like if you really boil it down, there's a lot uh of like David Tennant's character from Broadchurch in there a
Hmm.
little bit. Like you, you're like I'm brooding on the edge of a cliff top. A young boy has just died, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to find purpose.
Well,
Just
I've noticed as well as your doctor has progressed, you end up talking slightly with the same kind of, not necessarily the same, not definitely not the same accent, but there's a tone in your voice which is very similar to Capaldi, like a kind of under the breath kind of voice.
Yeah, that's very much like a poly way. But I
Like
think I
when,
got
because
the
I've noticed that in some of the early Uncharted past stuff, you don't do that at all. It isn't
yeah.
really until we do the time gap to Nathan, when Nathan is older, like Volume 2 of Uncharted Past, you start sort of sighing under your breath and kind of like muttering to yourself and going, at first you're like, "Hello, I'm the doctor," and then afterwards you're like, "Hello, I am the doctor," like that. I've noticed that that is quite similar to how Capaldi was.
Yeah, and then I do think there's a bit of Eccleston in there as well, to be
Yeah.
honest. If you like do boil it down, there's a bit
Mm.
of it.
Indeed,
But
indeed.
um, but yeah, those are what inspired me.
Hmm. And then we have the next question
I
from,
like
oh,
that this question is so well timed now.
oh yes. So next question is from Huddlestone Josh, who says, "Will you ever do a regeneration story for your doctor?" Yes,
We're currently working on them.
yes. Next question.
Myers Prindle, they ask any tips for anyone who wants to make a Doctor Who fan film slash audio drama.
I think I gave
I
this a
think
little
you'll
bit
take. I
earlier.
think we'll do what we did last time. I'll take the fan film side, and you do the fan audio side.
Okay, sure thing. With audios, you cast who you know,
Hmm.
and more importantly than that, cast who you know will record. You have to have patience for people to record in their own time if you don't give them deadlines. Start small, just do a little story, test the waters, and then you build. You need to make sure you have the right editing software. Like, until like 2023, I was editing on Premiere Pro. Then I moved over to Adobe Audition, and now Premiere Pro has actually imported everything from Adobe Audition into Premiere Pro, which means I can edit in Premiere Pro again. There's a lot, you have to get the right program for you. And if you don't have Adobe, there are many other free programs. There is obviously there's DaVinci Resolve. There's HitFilm. There's Film Pro.
That film's
Um,
actually has been discontinued.
Hit film's been discontinued. Okay, then
Yeah.
I think Abby's using. I don't know how Abby's still using. Okay, she must have an old version. So ignore me about Hit Film, but there was another one called Film More as well. That there were plenty of free programs out there to you for you to get started out on. You don't have to have it perfect immediately because people will, as you start, people won't just subscribe to you for your content, but they'll subscribe to you to see the journey.
Exactly.
And that's the point of it, is that it's a journey for you, and for those who are invested in you, they will invest in the time as well.
Precisely, sir. And as for fan films, it's basically the same merit, but just like a lot more time. I mean, a lot more time.
Oh yes.
Like you can crisscross the mediums about which is better, is fan films better, is audio is better. They both have their merits, but the one thing that fan films I feel do have over fan audios is
Mm.
that they take a lot more time. Am I boring
No,
you?
I no, I just cried out sadly.
Yeah, but they take a lot more time to make. They take a lot more time
Yes,
to make.
yes.
Um, and like we're coming up to a year into the production of the finale.
Mm.
There's still quite a bit to go.
Yes. I will say actually, because obviously in the 5 years since we last answered these questions, I've actually made a few live action shorts on Overton Audios, but
That's
we've
right, you
been
have.
we've been lucky enough to have them small scale enough that we film them in a day. So we don't have the same time crunching that you do. Um, I've been filming a lot for TT Productions as well, where they've been doing the Torchwood 23 stuff, which is their Torchwood series, and they've been filming minisodes that aren't just filmed in one day, but across multiple locations. So I've been involved in a lot of them.
Yeah, and
Um,
there's just a lot more time and a lot more
yeah, it's
because
different. It's different as well, and obviously having like I know we spoke about it all the way back then, but now that we've actually filmed my live action appearance in the Fractured Timeline finale, it's such a different experience to recording audio because obviously I've been so predominantly audio. The moment you go on camera, you suddenly have to realize that all these movements that you do, maybe in front of a microphone, you've now got to somehow do on camera and make it look natural. It's a whole process. Filming is a lot more work than audio, that's for sure.
it was like it's not just the voice now. You have to have a presence.
Yeah. That
And
was that was it for me. Like I was learning the lines, but then sometimes I would just stand there and say them.
yeah, and I was like, I think like me, you had like a wee walk and talk for about just say like just like you know how you listen up sometimes you record like you gotta project out a lot more.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And you did very well, sir. Did
Oh,
very,
thank
very
you.
well. I'm
Thank you.
so excited for people to see your performance.
Oh yes, indeed, indeed.
But moving on, I feel. Moving on.
Indeed. The next question is by Bo Zarek, who says, favorite TARDIS console room?
I have two. I think
Oh, that's a different answer.
I think I said initially it was the Capaldi TARDIS.
No, you didn't.
I didn't.
No, you said that was your least favorite 5 years ago.
Was it the Capaldi
Yeah,
TARDIS?
and I pulled you up on it because you kind of used that in Uncharted Past and a bit of obviously in at Death's Door. You used it, which was a bit strange to me. You said 1996.
1996. Yeah, that is my favorite still. But I really grew to love the Capaldi TARDIS,
Oh, okay, yeah,
especially how it's lit and all those. The thing is, it's like Matt Smith's TARDIS, like second TARDIS, and the McGann TARDIS had a baby, that would be the Capaldi TARDIS.
yeah. I have my one of my favorites. I kind of have two favorites, but one is growing on me a little bit more.
Hmm.
So I will always adore the 1996 TV movie TARDIS. I've been building up over the years my sound effects library of that TARDIS console, and I love all of it. But, and this isn't necessarily one that's seen in the show, it's seen in a Big Finish volume briefly. And it is called The Warriors TARDIS.
Oh, very nice.
It is that Doctor Unbound volume they did where the Sixth Doctor was the War Doctor. And
Oh,
it's a version of the Sixth Doctor's console, but really brutalized into a war setting. Like it's not got a protected rotor. There's metal framework coming down from above, holding the console in place. It's the screens are a little bit different. It's all very much more like a machine, and that's actually something I'm going to be leaning into, wanting that to be more like my interior for the Defiant Doctor that I play on the Doctor Expansive Multiverse YouTube channel. A little bit
hmm.
grungier, you know.
I agree, sir. I agree.
Indeed, indeed.
Moving on to our final question.
Oh,
And it's from Devlin himself. This is before you
oh,
played Devlin. This is before Devlin was introduced.
yes, it was.
Um, hey, it's Luke Lane. That's not me saying, hey, it's Luke Lane. That is his name.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Luke Lane. Funniest audio slash film blooper and or memory. And I've got one from very recently, so it's definitely not the same answer.
Oh, good, good. My one was always. I think we talked. I think we said it's always. I think actually back then I said it was always difficult to get a blooper, but since then I've had some funny bloopers. I've had people like mispronounce words. I've had people say the wrong word accidentally and realize their mistake, but then they realize they've said something else completely. Um, I think I've had. I think my favorite one though is Lewis Wilhouse not understanding that you could eat raw salmon. He
I
has an
don't know.
interesting way of well, he had an interesting way of recording where I don't think he does it much anymore, but halfway through the recording, he will sometimes just walk off and go and get dinner,
Really?
and he'll eat it in the recording and then just carry on. I'm like, oh, all right, okay. So he went. His mum had made him like a salmon fillet, but it wasn't cooked. Because you can have it raw. But he thought he was gonna get poisoned or something, and he had Googled it, and it turns out you could eat it. And I always remember what he said, which was he was really outraged at the fact that you could eat it. But he was just like, I can do the impression still. He went, really raw salmon, and I've got to eat it all cold. Oh, well, I didn't know you could eat it cold, but apparently you can. That's become a bit of a running joke with the people we know. We always go, really raw salmon? Because he just shouted that, and we were like, what on earth? But that's always stuck with me, that one.
That's fair. That's fair.
What about yourself?
For me, it's from the recent filming,
Oh God.
and it's with yourself
Oh God.
and Chelsea.
Oh God. Are
I
you
think you
allowed
know
to
what it
say? Are
is.
you allowed to say?
I'm gonna say what it is because
I know
it's
which one it is because I was talking to her earlier because during the filming with you today, she's got a few cuts and bruises on her knees.
yeah. She was leaning down, but like there was like a rock that was buried in the sand, and she hit her funny bone.
Yeah.
Um,
and I just said it was a shame I wasn't there to break your fall.
yeah, exactly. All right, here we go. We were giving too much context, but basically, it was you and Chelsea's first scene together in live
Yes.
for the finale. It was, it's not the first scene of your two characters, but it's the first scene you guys are together.
Yes, the first one we filmed, but it isn't chronologically.
Yeah, yeah. But and it's also the first time you guys were on camera
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
and it's you two just going in for a hug,
Yeah.
just going in for a hug. It's like Doctor, and then like Julia, and
Why is that? Why is everyone always with a voice? Everyone always
because
does the voice.
because it's the voice, and then like you go for this. We're going for just a rehearsal, and I wish we record this, but however which way Julia Chelsea went in to hug you. She cannonballed it into you, and you both fell over.
Yeah, she knocked me over and she wasn't even going that fast. It was something where she was meant to sort of run up to me and sort of like we were both running towards one another. And I think it was just one of those things where we it was good we rehearsed it, but I was not prepared for it. She just didn't really stop. And I tried to sort of like I don't know what it was I was trying to do in the end. I was trying to like hold I was almost like trying to hold her up as well, and then I just sort of lost balance on my legs, and she and I just went down. I fell back on my back, and she just landed on me, and I was like, "What?"
I remember we all just started laughing for like a
Yeah,
good
I was
half
lying
of
there
it.
for ages, but I got it wasn't good for me because that coat, that's a nice coat. That's a new coat I got for the filming as
It
well
was a
because
lovely
I've lost.
coat.
Well, the thing is, even though I've lost quite a bit of weight this year, I don't even think I've talked about that in the podcast. That I've lost like, I mean, I'm not to the same weight I was when we made the podcast, but like I'm definitely a lot better than I was. But the coat I was wearing still, I think I just sort of changed frame too much. So I got a new coat and I was now suddenly on my back in the coat on the wet sand, and everyone had to come by and wipe it all off me and stuff, and I was like, "Help!"
Yeah, and
But then that was funny.
it was very funny, and I think there'll be more stories when we keep filming the finale. But
Oh
that's my
yeah,
favorite so
oh
far.
100%, yeah, definitely, definitely.
And that
Is that all the
comes
questions?
that's all the questions, sir.
Oh my goodness, I don't know how long we've been recording now. Probably just over an hour. I'd like to hope.
Yeah,
I think
we're
we
going up to
maybe
11 o'clock as well.
yeah, I think we started recording around quarter two, didn't we?
Yeah, quarter two. Yeah,
Yeah, okay, so that's not terrible. I mean, it might be longer than the original podcast still.
yeah.
But that's because we ended
We
up
drone on.
rambling a bit. Yeah, we but no. Thank you everyone for those who have listened the whole time to the podcast for the last 5 years, and of course people who have just maybe begun listening or have been listening just for a year or so or however long you've listened. Thank you for listening and engaging after all this time. Um, we do have plans for the podcast moving forward. We have rebranded obviously for the 50th podcast, and I'm really happy with how that rebrand has worked. I do, I feel like we've gone through highs and lows on the podcast. Obviously, with regards to the podcast, I think I mean, I've been on every single one. I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's,
no, there's one that you could argue I wasn't, but that was genuinely because I had a massive mental breakdown, and I think
I
it
remember
was,
that, sir. I
yeah.
remember that.
I was still in it. I still recorded segments with people, but I wasn't hosting the main segment. So there's only one I've missed. Meanwhile, I think with you it was 12 because you went away for a year.
Yep.
Yeah, so
There's been the odd times I've been away as well, but that's because
I don't think we ever thought that we'd still be doing the podcast now, that's for sure.
that's generally like something I was going to say as well. Like 5 years, I did not think this podcast would live. I thought we would get to the end of COVID, of all the lockdowns,
Mm.
that life would just take, but we've always tried to make the time for this podcast to work.
Oh yeah, don't be wrong, it has been a struggle. There have
It
been
has.
times where I found myself
Like
having to
today example,
choose. I
today
just,
was a prime example.
oh yeah, I really wanted to record this today so that we're recording it on the same day that I mean, obviously not to the hour.
Yeah,
COVID enabled us to do that.
yeah,
Life has kind of returned to a sort of normal now.
yeah. And like
Um,
I was filming all day today, and then I have a family thing to go to, but I was like, I
oh
can't
yeah.
get home. I need to quit this podcast.
Yeah, and we won't be like recording the podcast for a few more weeks now. Actually, I've got everything sorted for the next one now. But finding the time to get everything done is always proving more difficult year by year. And now that I'm not doing a monthly vlog anymore, it became a choice at one point between the monthly vlog and the podcast because they're both monthly things. In the end, I decided to just push on with both, knowing that monthly vlog had an end date. Meanwhile, the podcast will exist for as long as we are making stuff, which at the moment is for the foreseeable future.
Exactly, sir.
I'd like to make it to episode 100 at least.
Yeah. Should we
I
say
have,
episode 100 is the goal? Not the end goal, but a goal is what episode
it's a
100.
big goal. I think we've gone 50 and now we've got 100. But you got to think, the 100th podcast, that's 40 months away.
God knows what's happening in 14 months, sir.
But remember, you got to think that that's just under 4 years away.
4 years.
Yeah.
What can happen in 4 years, sir? And I think
I,
that's where we.
I I feel like the podcast will eventually reinvent itself. I feel
As it
like
all
the
goes.
the current way that we're making it is working, and we have shifted things up. We used to talk about what was coming up and present it as a segment. Now we do it the other way around, where it comes out first and then we do a segment on it. So we can
Yeah.
talk about spoilers because we actually found ourselves with less and less to speak about. The segments were getting shorter to like 10 minutes.
Yeah, like
Um,
because I was talking with people who I was making talk about
mm.
Uncharted Past, but I couldn't talk about much because it was spoilers.
No, exactly. Whereas now, like, we'll be able to talk completely freely about, like, for example, I'm so looking forward to when we can talk about the Fractured Timeline finale.
Oh, me too.
I'm so looking
Oh,
forward to that. And then we can find out, because I think that's been one consistent thing since the entirety of the podcast that we've always talked about that one day we will do. And you never know. And you never know as well. Both of us might not even be doing the podcast when it gets to 100.
that's true.
That,
God
like,
knows what's going
like,
to
no,
happen.
but genuinely, I could hand it off to somebody else to do. I could maybe record some segments myself, but somebody else could be hosting it for all I know. I don't
Exactly.
know, and I don't know. Then again, I feel like it's my like Overton Audios is my channel. I feel like I should always have a presence,
Hmm.
but we'll see. There are tons of possibilities,
Exactly,
and
sir.
we never know. We never know.
Let's see what the future has in store.
Indeed. Thank you for listening, everyone.
And yeah, thanks for listening for like the last 5 years in
Indeed,
general.
of course, and
Uh,
we will see you in just under a month for the next podcast, which will be all about Mastermind.
Sorry, everyone, that was my alarm to take back to take something. But
I never heard an
yes.
alarm anyway, so you're fine.
Oh, never mind. But yes, we're talking about Mastermind Volume 3, is it?
It is. There'll be some reflections on the previous volumes too, because it's been so long. But
Exactly.
we will.
But anyway,
We will.
we will see you then, everyone.
See you later, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.